Okay, a little bit of reality. The minute that Washington and Brussels said to every OEM around the world, you must make an EV, otherwise you will make nothing, sooner or later it was bound to happen. The folks at BMW's M division were going to get around to making an EV. Granted, this came later rather than sooner, which leaves us really with one question. Is this really an M car? Okay, so what exactly is BMW M Division's first official electric vehicle? Well, to me, it looks a hell of a lot like a BMW 4 Series GranCoupe with an i4 badge on the back and a slightly different interpretation of the schnoz most of you don't like. From there, a different propulsion system. Now, technically, there are two different flavors on offer, and if I'm being pedantic, the E40, the two-wheel drive, meaning rear-wheel drive, that is most likely not an M Division product. That one is 335 horsepower and 317 pound-feet of torque. Then there's this, the M50. This one adds a front motor, and there it's 255 horsepower, and the rear motor is 308. Total system horsepower is 536. Total system torque, 538. Then how does that power get to all four wheels in this case? Well, through a single-speed transmission. Then there's the battery, and here we have to break up this part of the discussion into the bullets and numbers of the battery, and then some politics. First, the bullets and numbers. 81.5 kilowatt hours, and that's made up of 72 cells with 12 modules. Then there's the onboard charger. This is an 11 kilowatt onboard charger, and this specific one can be used in a 110 or a 240 outlet. Now, the politics. So we see a lot of discussion over where are we sourcing the minerals? Where are we sourcing the bits that go into those batteries? And one talks about like lithium and cobalt. And this is where we get into problems with rogue states. BMW is actively looking to lower things like the cobalt content. Now, there are two ways you and I could look at this strategy. Number one, to avoid supply chain issues with less than friendly folks, which could potentially turn into sourcing problems as more global OEMs are forced into EV production by governments around the world. And number two, cost. And there, not just the cost of the raw materials that go in the battery, but the final cost of the vehicle. Then there's the whole question of how do you source these materials? Currently, it's not BMW or the OEM that's sourcing these materials, it's the supplier of the battery or the battery pack that does this. BMW is doing something different here. They are controlling the sourcing. Like, for example, the lithium that goes into that battery, they're sourcing it from Australia. So I have to take my hat off to them that they're looking down the road here. I don't know what the cost difference is. My guess is this is to ensure sourcing, not so much lower the cost in today's world. Okay, so enough talk of the balance of power in the very near future. Back to bullets and numbers. This is an electric vehicle, so what's the range? Well, if it was that E40, the two-wheel drive, it'd be 300 miles of range. This one is on offer with two different wheel sizes. If it were a 19-inch wheel, it would be 270 miles of range. This one, 20-inch wheels, 227 miles of range. Ouch, that is a huge difference with the wheel change. Then it's an M car. So what are the performance figures? They're 0 to 60, and before I give you this, remember the M5 CS, bigger vehicle, a lot of horsepower. That one was 3.5 to 60. This, with all those batteries, two electric motors, 3.7 to 60. Even that E40, that's 5.5 to 60. Then there's VMAX, 130 miles an hour, or with the right walk down the options list, 140 miles an hour. If it's electric, you know what's coming, whether it's a BMW or not. 5,000. 18 pounds, or depending on how you express your weights and measures, 2,276 kilograms. As a point of reference, that is 340 pounds more than the two-wheel drive version of this, and 1,000 pounds heavier than an M3 all-wheel drive with that. Oh, yeah, it gets, oh yeah. Oh, I can believe 3.7. Yeah, that's Okay, let's slow down a little bit. The way in which it takes off is a bit different than other EVs. It's clearly biased towards the rear. I can feel the front end lift up a little bit here. That said, let's slow down, come to a stop. There's no one around. And this is where I have to admit to you that I have sandbagged you. There is more horsepower and more torque on offer. There's called a Sport Boost mode. That adds an additional 67 horsepower and 48 pounds of torque. With that. Oh yeah. It's quicker, it's noticeable, but it's not like mind-numbingly fast like a Taycan Turbo S. That literally rips your face off. It's the only way to describe that vehicle. This is, you can believe that the folks at MotoManTV spent some time tuning this car. As you and I move into driving dynamics, I'm just gonna cut to the chase here. The majority of the work from MotoManTV is in the driving dynamics, and that's where it needed it, because how the hell do you mask 5,000 pounds? That's really the thing working against this car. So let's understand what's underneath it and then reason up from there. It's got the double joint strut up front, and it's got the 5-link in the back. That's not really new to us here, but then they take some of the M tricks from M SUVs, like X5Ms. So it's got the strut brace in the front. Can't see it because we can't pull that plastic off, but it's there. And then underneath the vehicle, they've got the shearing plates, and then most noticeably, you see the bracing that goes underneath the subframe in the back. It needs it just as much as an X5M needs it. I would say more, because the weight's ridiculous here, and it's all in the ass end of the vehicle, and that's where we get into the setup of the dampers. So yes, they're adjustable. In the M50, it's air ride in the back, but more importantly, it's not like you get into, I'll make it up, any like AMG, hit the button for sport, and it changes the dampers, makes them more stiff or makes them more compliant. Here, it's specific. Here, it can be individually adjusted at each corner. So in a case like this, where we're coming around and there's gonna be a crazy amount of weight transfer in a 5,000 pound vehicle, especially one with a 112-inch wheelbase, there's more work going on in that back right corner than in the front corner. It's being targeted to each point of the vehicle to handle weight transfer. Putting it all together, wow, this is quite a thing. It is the first, Jesus, it is the first electric car that I can sort of steer with my right foot. So that's got to account for something. But on the flip side, if one does not understand car control and perhaps too much input on the steering, there would be a problem with that back end. It would come out from around you, kind of like a tailwheel airplane does a ground loop. But man, oh man, this... Yes, it is indeed that time again to play your favorite game on the Options Game with today's contestant, the first ever BMW M vehicle fitted with an electric propulsion system. This, the BMW i4 M50, for a base price of $65,900. Now, I do feel it prudent to point out, if this were the E40, which again, I do not believe is an M vehicle, that has a base price of $55,000 and is rear-wheel drive only. To that, we add the color. We've seen this before on that M4 X-Drive convertible, Brooklyn Gray. Very nice color. I don't know if I would do it on this one, but I do like it, especially because it's only $550. Then there's the interior. They've done a nice contrast here with this Takara red, but this almost $66,000 vehicle, leather is optional. This car is not fitted with it. It has Sensitech, so we don't have to pay the extra, $2 grand for leather. Then we press on to the driver's assistance package. This is the level 2 autonomy. No, this is not a self-driving car. Repeat after me, there is no such thing as a self-driving car on offer today. So we'll pay $1,700 for level 2 autonomy. Then the park assist package. This also includes a drive recorder that is $700. Then the premium package. This is the heated steering wheel, the heated seats, the lumbar support, as well as some other stuff. That is $900. Then there is the high performance package. Think of this as like the M-Tech package. This gives us the 20-inch wheels and changes the VMAX, so it's well worth $2,500. Then, things that are optional that shouldn't be on a $66,000 car, a Qi wireless charger, $200. And something you and I really never see in cars in the US, a 5G SIM card, $300. Now, while you and I are on the topic of things that should not cost extra, there is one item the folks at BMW agree with us on, and that would be the sunroof. That is fitted as standard to all BMW i4s. However, this is a curious one. I love me a sunroof, so I'm not complaining. However, they go out of their way to say the battery pack is specifically thinner in this vehicle than other electric vehicles to allow for more packaging in the vehicle. So they're kind of taking away headroom while doing this whole balancing act of the battery. And they go so far as to saying, by keeping the battery thinner, so it's not as tall, low in the vehicle, it lowers the center of gravity of the i4 about 2 inches lower than that of a regular 3 Series ICE model. Interesting tidbit. Then let's go back to the interior. There's two different dashboards on offer. It's like a standard BMW dashboard, and then there's the curved display. That is something you have to pay extra for. And if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, the folks at BMW are looking to placate the Tesla fanboys, the ones that want like an iPad in the center of their dashboard. Here, thankfully, it's not just an iPad over here, it's the whole thing. It integrates more modern version of the BMW UX. But more importantly, I take my hat off to both the interior designers as well as the color and trim folk, because it integrates well with the existing BMW design. It's not a spaceship on the inside, to put it another way. That we have to pay extra for, $1,000, and it does include a head-up display. Then the Harman Kardon sound system. This one is $875. Then, of course, we have to pay for the destination and handling von München, Deutschland for $995, which brings us to a total retail price of $76,670. But what's important to note about that screen, while it may look a little bit different and a little bit more flash, the UX is kind of an updated version of what BMW has given us. It has all of kind of the usual BMW bits. They've just made it look a little bit more appy. And what's most important about that is it's not just controlled by your finger, it can be controlled by the unified controller, which we've known for 20 years in the BMW universe. So this, I would argue, is one of the best UX on offer in an electric car. Yes, better than in the Porsche Taycan. So good news and bad news. Let's start with the good news first. This incredibly good, far exceeded my expectations. I'd go so far as to saying one of the best driving EVs you and I've experienced as of late. I wouldn't go so far as to saying that it's the best EV on offer because A, 75 grand, and B, it's not packaged for prudent people, and prudent people are the kind of people that buy EVs, at least now. Maybe it's the best EV on offer for freaks like you and I that think Taycans are cool, but this, it exceeds the Taycan in some areas like drivability around town. And then there's the bad news. Great car, but an M car, it ain't. Think of it as like an M340i with an electric propulsion system on steroids, which brings us to really what this thing is about. The folks in Munich, they like shot for the stars and said, we're gonna make an electric M car. At least that's what they tell us. But by trying to hit that goal, instead, they came to a different goal. And that is a car you actually wanna drive, whether it has an EV propulsion system or not. I think that's the win here, and this is the point where we get to the wish list, and they're back to the transmission. The performance, and I think the driving dynamics would be improved by a 2-speed transmission. We saw what that did in the Taycan, and perhaps in a coming like full-fat M version, maybe that's when they will bring it to us. But I am just one man, and this is the point of the episode where I turn this around to you guys to opine in the comments below, or via our social media, MotoManTV on Word, MotoManTV on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, let's get back to the politics. Do you want to discuss things like where cobalt and lithium are sourced, or perhaps bring on some of the folks that are experts in those fields, maybe not from car manufacturers? Let me know in the comments below on that. And until I see you in the next episode, be später.